All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. We really do appreciate you being with us. We got a great show for you. We're going to talk some Arkansas politics. I have the candidate for running for Arkansas Secretary of State, Mr. Bryan Norris, is with us in studio today. We're also going to talk a little bit about the, James O'Keefe busting this guy who gave away all of the vice president's security details. We're going to talk about that as well. Pretty scandalous stuff. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
The Paul Harrell program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to, whatever platform you're watching. Do all the things you're supposed to do. Retweet or repost, like, share, subscribe if you're on Rumble, YouTube, wherever you're at. And for those of you watching on television, just feel free to come over and follow us on any of those platforms, on the interwebs, if you will. All right, so we're now going to turn to Mr. Bryan Norris. We're going to introduce him to you guys. Bryan, welcome to the show. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You are from Independence County. You live in the great city of Batesville, Arkansas.
Wonderful Batesville. Arkansas's oldest city.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Wow.
Now you do.
I'm fascinated. You know, back when I was at the Capitol in Little Rock more often than I am now, which is never. I don't know if it's on the second or third floor, but they have, or at least they used to, you know, they have a lot of different maps from different historical periods in Arkansas. And it's always fascinating to go and see, you know, from this 10-year gap, this city isn't even on the map. And then 10 years later, here's the city, you know, it's now here. I'm a big nerd like that. I think that's fascinating.
Well, more on that. You got Batesville, which is the oldest, and then one of the newest cities in Arkansas, if not the newest, is Southside, right across the river. It was recently incorporated. So
really,
we're right there side by side.
Wow, the oldest and the newest city. That's pretty incredible. Okay, so you are. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You served in the Army for how many years? What was your rank, and when did you retire?
Served for 21 years. My rank was the first one when I retired was E8. And then I retired in 2021 and just did everything the Army ever asked me to do. Good old Arkansas boy. I was actually born and raised not too far from here. I was born in Jonesboro. Okay. And raised in Truman, so a Delta boy. But didn't like the mosquitoes, so chose the Ozarks a little bit to get away from that.
Yeah, that's not the first time that I've heard that. I actually have a cousin who lives in Northwest Arkansas now. He was raised in Wynn, and one of the reasons he left was because of the mosquitoes.
Yeah, I'll never forget it growing up.
Yeah. Well, I still endure the mosquitoes living here on Crowley's Ridge. So, but yeah, Batesville's nice. Like you get into Batesville and you don't have those issues.
Nope.
So
it's amazing.
All right, so tell me about why. Let's just start at the top. Why are you running to be the next Secretary of State of Arkansas?
Well, we hit on this a little bit before, and you wanted to recant the story a little bit. Yeah. So I'll go through that. I am a true believer in our republic and what we founded for. Absolutely believed it. Every time I swore and raised my right hand to re-enlist in the Army throughout its longest war in its history, I knew exactly what I was getting into. But I believed in the republic. I believed in the idea. I believed in the people of this country. And, you know, as life goes on, you get a little bit wiser. Shades start to fall down a little bit. And you learn that some things aren't necessarily the way that you were taught in civics class. When we retired and we came to Batesville, one of the main reasons why we moved to Batesville is we wanted a Christian-based area, we wanted conservative, and we wanted a small town to raise our kids in with values that we want them to have growing up in a community. And like I told you, one of the first things in June came around, there was drag queens dancing on the stage in Main Street, Batesville. And so we got involved with that, and that's what led me into the Republican Party, because that's the one that closely aligns with my values and my belief, right?
So you see the fact that you're kind of like, it's kind of strange, but you're kind of like Odysseus, you know, coming home, and you're like, wow, I'm in Batesville, and we've got this LGBTQ RSTLNE, would you like to buy a vowel, being celebrated in small town Arkansas.
It was just like it exploded everywhere, and even in Ramstein Air Base, Germany, which is the largest base in Europe, they were having drag queen story hours in the library there. So we just wanted away from it, and we really thought this was a safe place away from that. But it was everywhere. It's like you can't get away from it. And I'm looking around thinking, what have you guys done in the 20 years since I've been gone? Pretty upset. But if it's to be, it's up to me if I'm going to do something, right? If not me, then who? So I got involved, joined the Republican Party, started pushing back against the city and the things that they were doing. We were having some really good successes. And then some people came to us with an idea that they wanted to go to paper ballots in Independence County. And like I told you before, I was absolutely indifferent on the idea in the beginning. Suspect of machines, I know what's capable. If a 15-year-old can hack into the Pentagon, who knows what they can do, right? And it doesn't have to be nefarious in terms of voting. But like I tell people, if you think the GDP of Arkansas is about $6.3 billion annually, something like that. But America is what, $3.3 trillion annually now, something like that. Who would not try to influence that spending of that money? And one of the ways that they could guarantee influence is through the ballot box. So criminals, nation state actors that were wishing to do ill, that could be an avenue for success for them to dictate the spending of a lot of money. So it's like, okay, I got that. Do I really think it's happened? Whatever, maybe not. But if the people want it, let's figure out a way to get it to them. And there was a lot of people that were advocating for this position. So we started down that process, and it was amazing how the elected officials just vehemently came against us. Like it was serious personal attacks against us because we were doing this. Well, that made me think, well, why do you want to keep the status quo the way that it is so bad? Like, why do you even care? I don't care that much. Why are you caring that much? And they tried to block us at every attempt. Ran into an individual named Colonel Conrad Reynolds, who was like, hey, we got some attorneys working on this. This is what the initiative needs to look like. Your signature sheets have to look like this. And they helped us get right. And it was a group of everyone from Independence County that was going out collecting these signatures and doing it right. And we were vetting it, doing the process right, going against the voter rolls, making sure everybody that was signing was Independence County residents and all that good stuff, because we wanted to do it the right way too, you know. When we turned in everything, sure enough, the county clerk came back and deemed our title insufficient. Said, I declare your ballot title insufficient. The title read, the hand-marked and hand-counted paper ballot initiative of Independence County 2024.
Say that again. You're saying that I want you to repeat that title slowly. And you're saying that the county clerk of Independence County rejected your title, said you were not going to allow this petition to stand.
She deemed the title insufficient. So that means that it wasn't sufficient enough to the public to understand what it was about.
Okay. So what was the title?
The hand-marked and hand-counted paper ballot initiative of Independence County 2024.
Okay. So obviously the county clerk in this instance was lying. These are my words. I'm just saying you're obviously being deceptive. That's a very clear, straightforward title. We know what it's there to do. It's to get paper ballots in Independence County. You just don't want paper ballots in Independence County.
And in fairness to her, I think she was being pushed in that direction. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So we filed suits, and during that, we went to district court, and I had the idea, hey, we have a great FOIA in Arkansas, so why don't I FOIA to find out what they've been talking about? So I did. I went down there and I FOIA'd everything. And that paid some serious fruit because we got to see a little bit about how the sausage was being made. And we saw how the Arkansas Association of Counties was dictating to all these counties that were wanting to go to paper ballots on how to combat the title. I have the email still. I can show you. They were laying the roadmap out for them on how to defeat us. What they were going to do first was say that we used out-of-state canvassers and paid canvassers, and so they were going to deem us insufficient based on that. But we didn't do that in Independence County. We didn't have any of that. And in one of the emails, the county clerk said, I'm afraid that our people didn't have out-of-state canvassers. We have a problem. And the immediate response from the county attorney, Daniel Haney, in Independence County said, I'm afraid we're going to have to attack the ballot title now instead of doing it 2 years down the road. So their game plan was 2024, we're going to say that they used out-of-state canvassers and paid canvassers to do this. And then that'll push it to 2026 when they do it again, because that was unconstitutional. You're allowed to use at the county level out-of-state canvassers and stuff like that. So we would have won that one. But in 2026, they would have deemed it by the ballot title, which would have pushed us to 2028. A legislative session would have came through. They could have changed the laws, and then they could have gotten away with it, right?
So you have proof with these emails that there's a coordinated effort, a coordinated strategy to thwart the will of the people.
Oh, absolutely.
By bringing up things that are not true.
Absolutely.
That I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah,
so.
I do have those emails still, and I'll gladly give them to you. And it was coming from the AAC, Arkansas Association of Counties, but moreover, throughout that, our elected representatives were using their Gmail accounts to converse back and forth, which, as you know, when you FOIA, when you're using a Gmail account instead of your government account, it's a little bit more difficult to get that information. So
Yes.
I don't know why they were doing that, but, I don't think if you're an elected official and you have a government email address and you're doing official business, you must do it on that because of the FOIA laws. I mean, that's what it's all about. So we won at district court. They told me to my face that they would not take it any further, but lo and behold, they did. They took it to the Supreme Court. We fought it all the way there, and we won. Ballot gets the petition gets put on the ballot, and the people of Independence County overwhelmingly voted for it with 63% that won the ballot. So we are the first known county in America in which the citizens of that county voted on how their future votes would be taken and counted. And you'd never know that anywhere else outside of that. So we achieved that for the people, but it really upset me at how much they were willing to take this just to, this isn't going to be law. This isn't going to be mandated. We're just putting an option before the people and letting them decide on it.
Why do you think there was such opposition to you? You might not have known then. Do you know now? Is it, a couple of things come to mind, right? We have the state, the counties, they've got these contracts with voting machine companies, to supply us, to maintain the system. Is that the main reason why? Is it just maybe the older generation of politicians really, for some reason, trust technology to count our ballots in the age of AI, where you can't even believe your eyes anymore? You can't even believe if this video you're watching is true or not, and yet we're going to allow machines run by computers to select our elections. And this is really before you even get into the allegations of what we're finding now with people like Emerald Robinson's reporting about software, Venezuela, before you even know that these machines are not supposed to be able to connect to the internet, yet they can connect to the internet.
And it doesn't matter if they are or not.
And it doesn't even matter if they are or not, because, thumb drives and you may even know more. I'm sure you know more details than I do. Why do you think, though, if you had to guess, why is there such opposition to counties governing themselves and going to paper ballots and abandoning electronic voting machines?
I think it's a hodgepodge of all of them. And people in control like to exert control. That's one of them. And I think there's relationships and things that's been built with these companies, and they have that, and they have some good agreements, and I'm sure that's a part of the process. But also I think that it's easier. It's easier administratively for these counties to just let a machine do everything. So there's that aspect of it too. And then there are the older generation that do believe that they're secure. They trust them. They say that we don't want to go backwards. What I say to them is, whenever I'm having a disagreement with someone, I really try to look at it through their eyes, and I would ask you to do the same for me for this instance. Because you're absolutely right. Back in your day, there were a lot of problems when it comes to paper ballots. There was a lot of nefarious activity. There was a lot of things that were not good. And you guys worked and solved that problem the best way that you could. But now look at my generation. We see Georgia. We see Wisconsin. We see Minneapolis. We see California. It's machines failing over and over again. So we're looking at the same problem from different positions.
And there's reporting that they're making the machines or the software on the machines unauditable. So even if you go in to try to audit...
That's true in Arkansas. It's illegal for you to see the source code in Arkansas because it's proprietary knowledge. So the Arkansas Supreme Court has ruled, even though we have a transparency clause in our Constitution, that you are not allowed to see the source code in the machine because it's proprietary knowledge from a private company. So what we have in Arkansas is a private company managing and running our elections in this state. And more than that, the vast majority of the components of these machines are manufactured in communist China. And we know they've created all kinds of backdoors into our electric grid, into our communications infrastructure, our water boards, everything that they've been involved in, they've built a backdoor into it. So why wouldn't they do it with machines if they're able to do it for elections? And that's why they deemed elections critical infrastructure, so that they can kind of shore up some of those problems. But one thing that a lot of people, you hit on it, the thumb drive. When they do elections every cycle, there's someone from ES&S that shows up with a thumb drive that has updates to the source code, that has ballot imaging on them, that has all the information they need to do to conduct the election, right? Who is that person? What is the chain of custody of that thumb drive? Where has that thumb drive been? We don't know. We will never know because it's never audited. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that they're doing anything wrong, but it's a part of the public process, and I have a right to know that information if I want to, but yet I'm not being allowed to.
I interviewed Dr. Andrew Paquette a few times, and he has found he analyzes voter rolls in Wisconsin, New York, any voter rolls he can get his hands on. It's a very intensive process. He's a very smart man, and he's found algorithms, secret hidden algorithms in voting rolls that create ghost voters or create ghost or clones of voters. And all of that information has been sent to people like I think he was definitely a part of this story that 3 weeks before the 2024 election, Elon Musk got a bunch of information. I think some of that information was from him as well as a lot of other people talking about how unsecure everything was, and we're still waiting on Tulsi Gabbard's report.
Yep.
About
but
what
she
exactly
did say
went on.
That we know for a fact that China has been involved in our elections and has been for some time.
Yeah.
She said that already.
Yeah. No,
So,
yeah, she did.
I will defer to the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, and the President of the United States. I think they got better intel than we do. So I'm going to trust them. What's the point in putting them in? But
So let me ask you this. Yeah. Well, feel free to finish your thought.
No, I was just going to say, after that process, the next legislative cycle, you notice they ran through a whole bunch of bills to take away the petition process of the citizenry. My opponent, Senator Kim Hammer, sponsored, I believe it was 7 bills that makes it almost impossible for any county to do a petition process again like we did in Independence County.
And they passed. Did they pass?
They all passed, but 4 of them have been deemed unconstitutional since, and I think they're appealing that to the Supreme Court as well. So we'll see what the Supreme Court says. I think they're going to be on our side, and we're going to win that one. But one of the bills was.
So real quick, Senator Hammer, what district is he? Is Independence County part of his district?
No, he's out of Saline County.
Okay,
Benton,
I didn't think
County
so.
area. I think it's.
So you think that
16?
You think these bills that he ran were a direct result of people governing themselves and voting for paper ballots?
Absolutely. Why else would you do that? Especially right after we were successful. And he was the one that also he was the one that was pushing back a lot on the paper ballots. He punished Searcy County with SB 250 and withhold funding from them because they went to paper ballots. Their quorum court decided to go to paper ballots a couple years before us. And he ran legislation, SB 250, which would punish counties that went to paper ballots and withhold state funding from them to be able to administer their elections. So, I mean, you start connecting these dots. You're doing that to Searcy County because they went to it. You're coordinating with the AEC and doing other things there to push back against the paper ballot movement. And then we are successful with the petition process, and then you take that opportunity away from us too.
So you would say that all of this, getting back to the first question was, why have you decided to run for Arkansas Secretary of State? And so this was kind of this pushback or corruption or allergy to change and listen to the people was kind of your springboard.
It was one of the big motivating factors. It's one of the reasons, but not the only reasons.
Yeah.
The chief among it is pretty selfish, because in about 10 years, 12 years, 15 years from now, my children are going to look me in the face and they're going to say, Dad, I love you. I love Arkansas, but I'm trying to thrive in this world and not just survive. And in order to do so, I got to go to Texas, or I got to go to California, or I got to go somewhere else. And now I'm left in a position to where if I want to have a relationship with my children and my future grandchildren, I've got to travel to the United States in order to do so. So I want to help create an environment in the state of Arkansas to build generational wealth and bring those opportunities to the state so that my grandkids are living right down the road from me and not in another state to where I got to travel to.
That's incredibly refreshing to hear, considering right now, especially with December and what we learned about Tim Walz and the Somali fraud.
Yeah.
You talk about generational wealth, and I appreciate that. Like, what we are witnessing is native-born Americans being treated like second-class citizens, while immigration populations are literally getting immigration or a generational wealth.
Yep.
And they're getting to stay home with their families all day, running fake daycares.
Yes. It's even worse in Arkansas, because in Arkansas, the flyover states, especially like Arkansas, they are fleeing states like California, New York, and other places to get away from those issues, and they're selling their home for 1.5, $2 million plus, and then they're coming to Arkansas and they're like, man, that's a $500,000 home that's for sale. Well, I'll pay you $600,000 for it, just to not have any competition for it. That influctuates the market as it is already, and it prices out locals. I mean, when you come from California and the average median income per person is around $80,000 to $90,000, and in Arkansas it's $62,000 a year, right? They can afford to do that. They can afford to overpay because they just got a lot of liquidity and are purchasing a lower price value home that's even better than what they left. But yet the people in Arkansas that earn much less than they do have no way of doing that. And then the markets are getting further and fluctuated, and they're being priced out. They're being pushed out of their homes and their neighborhoods because they can't afford it.
Wow. Okay, I don't want to leave the paper ballot discussion before I ask a couple of questions.
Okay.
So I think we already covered the establishment in Arkansas, and let's be clear, this is the Republican establishment in Arkansas appears to be against paper ballots. Yet we have President Trump, okay, he has clearly stated many times that he thinks paper ballots are the way to go. What do you think, what seems to be the difference in the Trump administration's position on paper ballots versus Governor Sanders? Is there any difference?
Well, Governor Sanders said in an interview that when she was asked about paper ballots, she said, we're working on it. But that's it. There has been no movement. There has been no action. There has been nothing. So I don't know, because she hasn't said anything else beyond that. But when we try to have conversations, when we try to get things moving, it's silence. And silence can be deafening at times.
Okay. So we would say that the difference there is there just hasn't been. I mean, the difference would just, I mean, you got to wonder, like, if you've got the legislature moving or trying to punish counties that have gone ahead and done what President Trump says he wants done, and we don't have any public plans. I mean, there does appear to be a disconnect there, and I'm being charitable. I'm trying to be charitable.
I don't think she's a fan of them, but she hasn't publicly came out against them yet. So
okay.
how do you say? I can't read it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess what's frustrating is I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, okay? Because I think Sarah Huckabee Sanders, governor, and by the way, I really do appreciate Governor Sanders' position on a lot of the social issues that are very near and dear to my heart. But she's part of my generation. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm 41. I think she's around that same age. Mm-hmm. So
she's 44, I think. 43.
Oh, okay.
44.
Well, so we know, like, we know what we know the dangers of technology. We've seen we saw the world go from analog technology to digital technology. Like, I remember, like, I had a Walkman. I had it, like, so we're of the same generation, and we've seen how technology is all-consuming. It's consuming our lives in a lot of negative ways. But when it comes to how we pick our elected leaders, yes, I'm glad you brought up. Back in the olden days, how are we doing? It's election night. How are we doing? Well, they're buying the boxes faster than we can buy them, right? The ballot boxes. Like, that literally happened. There's no question that happened. And, yes, you can cheat with paper ballots.
Yes.
But with the rise of AI, and I actually am calling the resistance of this, I don't know if I've coined it, but I haven't heard anyone use it. The neo-Amish is essentially, I think, what we're going to be looked at as when this all is said and done. There is the need, and maybe people don't realize it yet, but there is the need to know that the person you're interacting with, whether it's in government, whether it's socially, the need to know that person has a soul. And these soulless machines that can be manipulated, and there's apparently a lot of different ways to do it, it is insane in this day and age to trust that, that technology. And it's a lot more reliable to trust somebody. If you want to steal it, that's fine, but let's make sure the person stealing it has a soul. Let's make sure they're a flesh and blood
Someone
person.
we can hold accountable.
Someone we can hold accountable.
Yeah.
Exactly, Bryan Norris, exactly. And so, you would hope that her being, I think one of the youngest governors, or she's a young person. She's on the cusp of millennial or Gen X or whatever. You would hope that we would go to paper ballots, because the idea of stumping and being for the machines in this day and age is insane.
No, it's a losing issue. Why did every Western nation in Europe do it? Why did Canada do it? Why did Taiwan move away from machines? What do they know that we don't? Are they stupid? Or are they going backwards? Or have they just admitted that there was a problem and gotten away from it? Which is what I think they did. And how do you audit voter intent? When you get a receipt from a machine, right, that displays everybody you voted for and it has a barcode on it, and then you feed it into another machine, you hope it counted it right. When you go back and do an audit, how can you audit the voter's intent? When you have a paper ballot in front of you and you take a marker and you mark next to that name, your intention is clear.
Yeah.
Right? You can audit the intent of the voter and get that. Right now, you can't audit the intent. And Rasmussen did a poll. The average person only looked at their ballot for 2.3 seconds. So if you have a county like Craighead County or Pulaski County and you've got 50 races going on and you only look at it for 2.3 seconds because you're trusting the officials and you're trusting the process and you don't think anything's nefarious, and all of that trust is for naught because maybe there was some nefarious activity. And they say that the machines are 100% accurate, that they've never had a failure in Arkansas. But how many people do you know have looked at their ballot, and then said, there's a problem here? What do? They take the ballot away from them, they spoil it, and they send them back to the machine to redo it. So there was a problem because you had to throw away a ballot, but it got caught there. And then they redid their ballot, said it was good then, and fed it back into the machine. So that's the talking points and play on words that they use, but in reality, it doesn't actually add up. They fail constantly. They just don't track all the spoiled ballots.
Wow. Yeah, that's something I had no idea. I didn't know. All right, let me ask you this. I know you're traveling all across the state right now, right? You're probably meeting, tons of people.
Great people.
So what's been the most surprising positions by the public that you found as you've been traveling across the state?
Surprising positions.
Or maybe the most maybe the most consistent thing you've heard. Like what's everybody saying? Or feel free to take it wherever you want to go. I'm just curious, what have you learned?
Most consistent thing is affordability. From the farming crisis that we had back in the day that, until they got the rescue plan from President Trump, to the taxes to the prices at the grocery store, to the prices to buy things, the interest rates growing up. Affordability is first and foremost on people's minds. They're feeling it in their wallet, and it's something that's there every day they go and buy something. Mm-hmm. So it's constantly on them. So that's by far the chief one. And number two would be the elections. It's a very contentious issue. It's split down. I would say it's split down the middle from the places that I go to, and you're either adamantly against the machines or you're adamantly against paper ballots. And no one wants to come in the middle and talk about it. And what I tell people is, look, we can agree to disagree, but we can have conversations, but we have to meet in reality. And if you're not willing to meet in reality and admit that we do have some issues and how to shore them up, if we want to go to machines, President Trump says we can, but they have to be manufactured in America with clear chain of custody. They have to be foyable so that you know everything that's happening inside that machine.
The source code.
And they must meet DoD cybersecurity standards. Will you relent to that and accept that position? Well, I think our elections in Arkansas are fine. But that's not you think. But the president doesn't. The DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, doesn't. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen doesn't. Senator Johnson doesn't. And every cybersecurity expert in America that I've talked to doesn't. So why don't we just say that we want to improve what we have? Will you relent to that position? No. And can't even have a conversation with our elected officials about that either. So you don't purchase insurance after your house is burnt, right? You maintain it, you take care of it the best you can, you do the right things on it. After it happens, it's too late to go and get insurance. Mm-hmm. So we know that the opportunities exist and these vulnerabilities are real. Why are we not going to do the prudent thing and say, you know what, maybe there wasn't an issue in Arkansas, but we now know that the possibility exists, so we're going to close that door.
Wow. Yeah, that's really good. I found out that the precursor to Dominion, the company that eventually became
Smartmatic.
Dominion Voting, this was years and years ago. This was back during the Arnold Schwarzenegger administration in California. Mm-hmm. They applied for a contract. I don't know if it was statewide or if it was certain counties, but they applied for a contract. And at the time, the state had a law on the books that said you have to let the state, third party, inspect your, or the state of California inspect your voting machine. And the way the story goes, according to Dr. Andrew Paquette, is they came back and they said, it looks like this software was designed to rig elections.
Yeah.
So they denied the contract. But then after the Schwarzenegger administration ended, Democrat Governor Jerry Brown became the governor there. And they did a series of bills to change the law about whether or not they're going to have access to the source code or whatever. And then lo and behold, they did get the contract in counties in several counties in California. And you can look all this up. By the way, it's difficult to look that up.
But it's there.
But the articles are there about what happened. And so this is not a conspiracy theory. And also, the fact is we watched 2020 happen. All of us watched what happened in 2020. We all went to bed. Many of us went to bed with Trump having, 150,000 vote, 300,000 vote lead in these states. We remember what happened in Georgia. We remember how they all quit counting ballots in all those swing states at the exact same time and went home.
Yep.
We were. I mean, we got to believe our own eyes. And the idea, and this is the rub. And feel free to disagree with me on this, but I think this is the rub. This is not a system that only benefits Democrats.
Oh no, I agree with you.
Right now, we're a very red state in Arkansas, and I'm thankful for that generally. But the primary that's coming up here at the beginning of March, that you're running in, this is essentially the general election.
It is.
You're running against the current Secretary of State, Cole Jester.
No, I'm running against State Senator Kim Hammer and Miller County Judge Kathy Hardin-Harris.
Forgive me.
Jester was appointed, so he can't run.
He can't run. So forgive me on that. But you're running against those two other candidates. That's essentially the general election is what I mean. So you're essentially so basically on that, let me ask you that about your opponents while we get to that. I had a question here that I wrote out, but now I can't seem to find it. Okay, here we go. What positions taken by your opponents do you take issue with? Do you know? I mean, you mentioned Kim Hammer, so obviously you take issue with some of the bills he's written, right?
And I'll say this. Meeting Senator Hammer and knowing him in person,
he's a nice guy.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I used to. I mean, there's pieces of legislation that he's done in the past that I've been a huge fan of.
Yep.
So.
But I disagree with some of your voting style, and that's okay. We're allowed to do that. But there are several things that he has done that I'm not a fan of. But first and foremost, he's been in there for, 16, 20 years, something like that. He's termed out in the House and he's termed out in the Senate. And there is such a thing as institutional capture, to where you don't even realize that you're just doing things because that's the way things have always been done. It's what you're familiar with. It's what you're comfortable with. And you know the people that's involved in the process. You don't want to upset the apple cart. You don't want to make enemies. So you're going to go along to get along. That does exist in any institution that you work in, which is why in the military, you can't stay in a leadership position at one location for a maximum of 4 years. And then you're rotated out and someone else is in, because they stop that. They want you to be tip of the spear everywhere you go. But he also, he voted against recording all government public meetings, and that's HB 1928 and 2019. He voted for immunity from lawsuits from campus police, SB 494 in 2021. And he voted to undermine freedom of information law and law enforcement, which was SB 356 in 2021. He voted for FOIA exemptions on sales tax data, HB 1868 in 2021. And he voted for absolute immunity for state legislatures to avoid criminal charges. And that was SB 353 in 2023. Voted against prohibiting lobbying for China or Russia, HB 1662. Voted to remove transparency in taxpayer-funded financial loans, HB 1797 in 2025. Voted to repeal internal audit authority to review Department of Transportation, SB 562. So those were some of the anti-transparency laws, but when it comes to election integrity, he voted to get rid of lifetime term limits, SJR 15 in 2019. Voted to deny ballot access competition, SB 163 in 2019. Voted against election integrity and absentee voting, SB 235. Voted against prohibiting the use of absentee ballot drop boxes, SB 28. Voted for government-controlled ballot titles for citizen initiatives, HB 1713 in 2025, and voted to make it harder to pass citizen initiatives in SB 207 through 211 in 2025, which we talked about earlier. And I saw a report on social media earlier today that he was advocating for internet voting or cell phone voting during COVID. So that's pretty radical, in my opinion. If we think machines are bad, what do we think internet voting and cell phone voting is going to be?
Well, and I've if you're going to enable cell phone voting, and I know COVID, a lot of people weren't thinking clearly in COVID. Let's hope they've realized that and have repented of that. But I will say
wild time to be alive.
If you're going to go to cell phone voting, you should just abolish the legislature and go to a direct democracy. I mean, if we can all vote, why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From our phones. Obviously, I'm not a proponent of a direct democracy at all.
No.
But anyway, I think this is an interesting race, and your story is fascinating to me about how you got involved in this. It seems like I think it's interesting that you weren't a huge proponent of paper ballots until the establishment was so adamantly against it, and that caused you to pull at that thread, and now here you are in the race. So.
Yeah, I'm always a fan of I'm a fan of the people, man, and doing things. Like, I think that's the beauty. 3% of the population of the colonies won the Revolutionary War and defeated the greatest empire the world had ever known at that time, right?
Yes.
And that's the will of a group of people just getting it together and sticking it out until the end and creating change, right? And there's beauty in that.
Yeah.
And who knows what's better for their home than the people that live there? So if they decide that they want to see some change in something that affects them and only them, what is your problem, big state? Yeah. What is your problem, Uncle Sam? What is it really affecting you in the end?
Yeah. Well, I remember what I was saying before I went to that other question, but we all saw 2020. This is a system that doesn't just benefit the Democrats. We're talking about the Republicans, I believe, in their primaries. If the machines are as bad as we think, and I think they're probably worse, I do tend to believe Emerald Robinson's reporting about what has actually gone on since 2004. The software originated in Venezuela. It's gone to countries all across the world. I actually think the countries in Europe have had their elections rigged for a very long time. So I think there are a lot of forces, and I'm not necessarily saying that's the motivation of the people here locally. I think they're probably being given other talking points. But
they're being fear-mongered. They're being told that it's more expensive, it's cost prohibitive. They're being told that it will take too much people and they can't do it. They're being told all these things. But we now have Searcy County who did it, who proved all of their points wrong. Mm-hmm. They spent 8% of what they would have spent using machines on the paper ballot election. So it clearly isn't too expensive.
Yep.
And guess who else uses paper ballots right now and has been forever in Arkansas? Pulaski County. Mm-hmm. And why? Because on voting day, when all the polls open up, they say they can't afford to put machines in all the locations. So if you can't afford to put machines in all the locations, how can it be cheaper than paper ballot when you use paper ballots?
That's a great point.
It's talking points, right?
Can you remind us about Searcy County? After Searcy County's quorum court voted for paper ballots, they were essentially brought up on fake charges. That's the way I would characterize it.
So I believe it was a joint performance review board that was assigned to that, and then the Arkansas State Board of Elections Commissioners took it up based on their recommendation, which that is chaired by Senator Kim Hammer as well, the Joint Performance Review Board. I know they brought Colonel Conrad Reynolds and a bunch of others in on that. So what they said is they spent too much money on spent too little money on audio-visual equipment to record. What they did was they brought in a bunch of GoPro cameras where they were counting the ballots at, and they rented some TVs. They rented the GoPros and they rented the TVs, but they put the TVs out behind them so that people wouldn't be just standing around looking over their shoulders. They could just sit back and watch the TVs, and anyone and everyone could come and see it the entire time.
And watch them count the ballots.
Yeah, and they were charged, I think, something like $100 a day or something for it. Anyway, they alluded that counted as an illegal contribution or fraud because the company that did it, AVII, charged them too little. Well, when you rent the vehicle, you don't pay the full price of the vehicle to rent it, right? You're renting a piece of equipment, so you pay a percentage of it to have it for a moment in time. How can you determine what value that needs to be when you're just renting something?
Well, Brian, it should have been higher because you see the reason it should have been higher is because there are probably people expected to tithe a portion of that money back to government politicians. Or
it was
something.
Too little because I didn't get my piece.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't get
Where's
my
the
piece.
VIG?
But didn't they try to ban
15 years?
15 years. They tried to ban these people from working in government for 15 years, and then they backed off on it because they realized that they were losing in the court of public opinion. Maybe.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I got very involved with the people of Searcy County. They're phenomenal people. And I tell you, what's a beautiful thing there in that county? Democrats and Republicans got together like I'd never seen anywhere else to push back against this. You have Democrat election commissioners as well as Republicans, and they were all charged. So they were all down there together, banded together, and their community rallied behind them. When they had the hearing, there was no standing room left in the hearing room. There was people outside in the lobby, and they stayed there all day about it. And finally, after the evidence was coming out, I mean, it was ridiculous. They brought charges against one lady who wasn't even at that polling location, and she could prove it. But they charged her and brought this 87-year-old lady all the way down from Marshall, Arkansas, down to Little Rock for this hearing where she wasn't even at. Mm-hmm. So they dismissed that and apologized to her. And then they ended up saying, well, we're going to dismiss this ban. We're going to dismiss all that stuff, and we're just going to issue a letter of reprimand.
Wow. Pretty incredible. Okay. I want one more question about Secretary of State stuff.
Okay.
And then maybe we'll get to this James O'Keefe scoop about the Vice President's security. I'm curious about the franchise tax.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that LLCs, businesses have to pay every year.
Yeah, I just paid my wife's $525.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the franchise tax? I mean, why are we charging businesses in Arkansas that already pay taxes $150 or, like you said, $500 a year just to be a business?
I had to pay $500 because my wife didn't pay the previous one, so I had to pay.
Yeah.
So, full disclosure.
No, I always pay the late I always wait till like December 31st to pay my franchise tax.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I found out about it and paid that actually online on the way here. So that was awesome. But why would you burden the wealth producers of your state and the people that's providing employment? That's a hindrance. Even though it's only $150, right? It's not that much money. But why? I mean, they're providing far more in employment and tax revenue and building and manufacturing and purchasing stuff and doing everything that it already takes to run a business. Why are you just going to add one more thing? We're taxed to death. We're taxed to freaking death. You can't, if you add up in America and in Arkansas, when you purchase something, how much of your income is involved in that transaction? Let's go. Let's get a bit of Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations.
That's actually
involved.
A copy of your game. So I wrote this game, Left Wing Will and the Red Pill.
Let's say, like this iPhone. You purchase this iPhone here. How much of your money is actually involved in taxes when you do the run rate all the way through? Right. Let's break it down because in Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, the value of something is whatever you're willing to actually pay for it. Right. But how much was involved in taxes in the manufacturer to produce this good? And then all the third-party suppliers that provided the components to manufacture this, and then all the labor that went to it, and then the shipping in it, and getting it through customs, right? This phone cost me, $1,100? But it probably only cost Apple about $150 to produce. But I'm paying the rest of it in taxes to soak up what they have, and that's what you don't see. And then in Arkansas, in my county, you have a 10% sales tax. So now there's an extra 10% charged onto the fact of it at that. And then you got your personal property taxes, you got your vehicle registration fees, you've got your sales tax going on, and then you have your income tax for the state at the end of the year, and then you have your federal income tax at the end of the year. When you extrapolate that, all of the taxes that you pay on everything involved in a single purchase, if you wrap it all into one, involved in a single purchase is about 37 to 42%, depending on where you live at and your county's sales tax rates and where you are. That's how much you are being taxed on the value of something every time that you purchase something. When you equate income tax, state income tax, and Medicare, Medicaid, and all those other taxes that you do, we're knocking the door on 50% in Arkansas. And in other states, it's far worse.
I completely agree with you. I mean, and this is just one example.
When's enough?
I don't know.
You run out of people's money at some point. I mean, it's really nice for the government to be able to spend other people's money. I mean, that's fun. I wish I could do it all the time. But at some point, you're going to run out of other people's money.
Yeah.
And there's no more left.
Yeah.
What are we going to do then?
Well, I will say this, somebody who's been covering the national, we're covering national news most days. We try to do the Arkansas news, when we can. But you look at how corrupt things are nationally, and you look at how that's emulated at the state level.
Everywhere.
I mean, you can't. But if you're going to have a chance of reforming it, you're going to have a much better chance, I think, at the state level.
Absolutely.
I mean, when the USAID stuff broke this time last year, the gargantuan amount of billions and billions and billions of dollars going to all these NGOs, and then from there they get tithed back to Democrat campaign coffers, or they get tied back to other political organizations. You look at what's going on in Somalia. They get caught with $700 million. They've been sending $1 million a day for years through TSA back to Amsterdam and then into Dubai, and then and you're thinking, well, once that money gets there, who knows? Good luck tracking it, but it's all going to. I mean, then you look at Venezuela. Venezuela is essentially the Ukraine of the Western Hemisphere in terms of corruption and how many people are getting that kind of kickbacks. And you think, wow, they're running essentially the people in charge of us are running proxy wars against us via all of these different organizations to go against who we are.
Yep.
And Arkansas, the red state of Arkansas, is affected by that, and it is. I mean, I saw it I saw it with all the Medicaid fraud that went on and the people that went to jail, and that was just one industry, and so it's frustrating, and we've got to do better. We've got to find a way to do better, and I think the paper ballots, back to the paper ballots, is a microcosm of people just wanting to govern themselves, and then you have people in our own party saying, no, you're not going to govern yourselves that way. You're governing yourselves the wrong way, and I think that people have had it. We are in the midst of it. We're very close to a complete cascading failure of confidence in all of our institutions, all of our government.
Well, we have the lowest voter turnout in the nation, and that's because people don't trust the process. But we identified a lot of problems. How can we fix them at the Secretary of State's office?
Great. Yes.
Right?
That's a good question.
So day one, I'm going to do a Doge-style audit with an independent third party of everything under the purview of the Secretary of State's office with the caveat. Whatever is not codified in law, bring it to me. I'm going to take that to my attorneys on staff, and I'm going to have them validate that that's not codified in law. And once they tell me that it was not passed by the legislature and signed by the governor, it goes away. I won't even entertain it. I will not do a policy. I will not do a regulation that is not signed by the legislature. If you want to do that, legislature, pass a bill. Be held accountable to your constituents. You will not do an end run around the people of Arkansas to have me push forward whatever agenda it is it may be doing. Or there may be stuff that's 10, 20 years old that's just been there and nobody's gotten rid of it, right? So we're going to clean house very, very quickly. And I've got the organization already picked out that's going to come and do that, and we're going to clean that up very, very quickly. But all of that's great, but if we don't bring opportunities to the state, the Secretary of State should be the chief ambassador for business in the state of Arkansas. We should be going out and soliciting businesses from around the world, honestly, to come and do business in Arkansas. So we've got to know and define success and create a roadmap in order to get success. And one of the ways that we can do that, and I want to do it, is every 3 months, I want to meet with business owners all across the state somewhere. And every county I want to be represented. No staff, just me. And I want to ask them, what does success look like for you at the end of this fiscal year? And how can the Secretary of State's office help you get to success? And I want to take all those notes down. And I'm going to take that back to my staff, and I'm going to say, find me a business or something somewhere that can facilitate these needs and what these people are looking for. Or if it's policy, how can we implement that? Or if it's regulatory, how can we help them? Who do we need to talk to? And then find me appointments to go and have conversations with these people to start solving some of these problems. Small businesses across the state of Arkansas employ the vast majority of Arkansans. And I talk to them all across the state, and they say, I can do more. I want to do more, but I'm not going to deal with the red tape that it takes to get there. So we've got all those issues that we need to solve. To bring it home is like this. When my home was built and sold in 1979, it sold for $83,000. When I purchased it in 2021, I purchased it for $270,000. That's a 430% increase in 42 years, right? The average wages in Batesville, Arkansas was $29,000 to $32,000 in 1979. Today, the average wages are $35,000 to $40,000, depending on the metric that you're looking at and who's giving you the statistics. It's somewhere in there. That's a 12 to 17% increase. The math is not mathing. The only way that our children and grandchildren are going to be able to afford the American dream is to influx capital in this state, influx opportunities to where employers are faced with this decision. If I want to keep my best employees, I am going to have to compensate them appropriately, or they will go down the street and work for the opposition. So I've got that choice. There's a reason why every one of our states surrounding us, wages are going up, because employers are moving into those states and they're having to make those decisions. But in Arkansas, we're still stuck at $62,000 average median income per the family? That's the reason. One of the largest wealth drains in our nation's history took place during COVID. And it took place from California, New York, and the Rust Belt of the North. Where did they all go? They went to Texas, Tennessee, and Florida, and they bypassed Arkansas. We have to ask ourselves, why did all of these businesses bypass Arkansas? It's because the business climate is not as friendly and conducive to what they're doing in these other states. So they're going there. What are we doing about it?
Do you have any relationships with past secretaries of state? Have you talked to any of them?
I've reached out to one of them, and I won't disclose who it was, but we've had some really good conversations, and I've had some really good conversations with people that used to run the maintenance of the Capitol, and I got some inside baseball knowledge on what that is and what we need to fix. So definitely have a lot. I want our Capitol to be a destination, not just a building.
Yeah. Well, as long as I think it's a good idea to do the audit, but as long as it doesn't come back that the Christmas decorations are not approved by the legislature, I wouldn't cut those. That would be my one piece of advice, because it's
impeach me, because it's going to happen. I mean, I'm sorry. The nativity scene will be up.
Yeah.
Impeach me.
No, what I mean by that is what I'm saying is I'm for that. The Christmas the Capitol always looks really special around Christmas time.
It's going to look even better.
Yeah.
I promise you that. Take it to the bank. I'll have you there. We'll do some photos. Yeah. We'll do a live show right in front of the first display.
We should do
that.
Right?
And you can hold baby Bubba, because if that here look, there's always a way, right? Stop telling me we can't do something.
Yeah.
You couldn't talk on a cellular phone to someone that was sitting in London 30, 40, 50 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Until you could. Stop saying stuff can't be possible. If you say the nativity scene is illegal, well, it's not the nativity scene. It's the first Arkansas family. That's baby Bubba.
Yeah.
That's Uncle Jesse. Names mean things, right?
Yeah. I like it. That's good. That's good stuff. We're talking, by the way, to Bryan Norris. He's running for Arkansas Secretary of State. As a matter of fact, we'll just throw his website up there. If you want more information, you go to bryannorris.org. That's BRYANNORRIS.org. You see him on the screen there. Before we wrap up the show, I do want to cover one topic, or at least one topic of news, because I want to get your opinion on it. We had this fallout at Butler, Pennsylvania, when President Donald Trump was almost assassinated. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I've got this wrong. Okay, yeah, here we go. So we have this James O'Keefe story. The Secret Service did not look good. A lot of people still don't believe the official story behind Butler and what was going on with the Secret Service. This guy that James O'Keefe has exposed is a Biden holdover, and I will just say that I'll also add that the journalists that are working for James O'Keefe they must be very attractive ladies, because this guy essentially just spills the beans. He spills everything.
How does he pull this off?
I don't know, but the U.S. Secret Service agent assigned to Vice President J.D. Vance leaks sensitive security information to undercover reporter. The guy's name is Thomas Escato. He's a holdover from the Biden administration. He stated that he voted for Joe Biden while expressing his opposition to ICE and the Trump administration's immigration policies. And so this is the guy. So we're going to listen to a little bit of this video here, and I want to get your reaction to it on the other side, Brian.
Okay.
A current Secret Service agent on Vice President J.D. Vance's security detail.
When he's walking, where are you?
We'll have at least a minimum head and
gives away vital high-level security information to our undercover journalists.
We have different shifts. We have shift.
Tells her about detailed future travel plans for the Vice President, and even sends her pictures with location metadata revealing where the President's convoy was located, potentially violating both the Secret Service NDA and United States federal law. And Tomas is fully aware of this. Quote, I sign paperwork, so if I don't have to get out information, I never do, otherwise I get in trouble. You really have to stand in awe of the lack of self-awareness.
They know secret about what we do.
Tomas Escato also reveals that he voted for Biden and that he hates Trump and Vance's immigration policies.
Did you vote for Biden?
Yes, I did actually.
Yeah. What do you think about all the ICE stuff going on?
Yeah, I hate that shit.
Yeah.
They're employing taxes that shouldn't be employed.
You may have seen reports last week that someone attempted to break into Vice President J.D. Vance's home in Ohio Ohio. That incident prompted us to take a closer look. What we found in our investigation was an agent inside the vice president's detail who was actually revealing to a total stranger that the vice president would be visiting his home in Ohio days ahead of time. And while what you're about to see is an important story, the security of the vice president and his family is our top priority. Now, under normal circumstances, our editorial policy is to request comment a day or two before a report airs. But in this case, we contacted the Secret Service a full week in advance of this report to ensure that nothing we report here would compromise the vice president's safety in any way. But even with those precautions, what we uncovered is troubling, and we felt this is important for you all to see. We hope that bringing this to light strengthens security and helps prevent future vulnerabilities in our government.
Can I see your badge again with your photo? You said you were training. It was your training?
Yeah, that's like 4 years ago.
You're so cute.
This guy's
We
cooked.
met Thomas on the dating app Tinder in October of 2025.
You're so cute.
The Secret Service agent is a holdover from
Hang
the
on
Biden
one second. We get
administration,
photos
He was
here in a
actually
minute.
originally tasked with protecting Kamala Harris and Doug Emhoff. In fact, he sent us this image from a Christmas party in December of 2024. There he is with Kamala Harris.
How did you get picked to do like vice president?
Not by choice, it's just...
All right, so it's a lengthy report, but eventually they show. Yeah, here we go. Like he sent this lady photos of like them loading. Them loading the vice president's SUV onto planes. Like, look at all these photos.
Man.
Like, I mean, literally, like the logistics
Detailed
behind it.
info with pictures about the specific methods used to transport and protect the vice president. And even tells her.
Anyway, it's absolutely insane. But again, back to my comment about a cascading failure of confidence in every institution.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about this? This is insane.
Well, as someone who's done some security work and stuff in the past, he broke every rule in the book. And, I mean, it's classic guy just, going out on Tinder, running his mouth, trying to show off for a girl, and ended up ruining his life.
Yeah.
But when I first joined the military, it was amazing to me how all the officers and non-commissioned officers were so against anything political.
Mm-hmm.
Like they think we don't talk about it. That ain't our role. That's not what we do. We support whoever's in charge. Shut up, go.
Yeah.
Right? I saw that slowly start to change in the United States Army as well. By the time that I got out, overtly, officers and senior non-commissioned officers and everybody else was talking about politics and stating their side. And I even had my last regimental commander look at me in the face and tell me, something's got to change. We need more minorities in leadership throughout this regiment. And before I retired, I looked by the leadership board, and there was not one single white Caucasian American male as a first sergeant in that entire regiment.
So they got what they wanted. They
Something did change.
They want the outcome. That's all they care about. If it's really frustrating. This is the problem with it. I mean, on so many areas, this is why judges, the same motivation for why judges are letting, people who've been arrested 14 times let them go, and then they go and they stab Irina Zaruska on a subway. Mm-hmm. It's that same motivation. Like we can't keep this person behind bars because we've already got too many minorities. That's the same motivation for just looking at a platoon and saying we don't have enough minorities, and then basically eliminating white people from those positions.
Let's just be a merit-based. Let your merit earn it.
Yeah.
100%.
All right, well, I'm going to give you the last word, Bryan Norris. We have about a minute and a half left. But
okay.
First of all, I just want to say this has been refreshing. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank
and
you.
You're an inspiration of somebody who served our country, moved back home. You move back home, you realize, I've got work to do. You go basically right back to work in a different capacity, but from a good conviction, and I admire that, and I wanted to highlight your story. So,
thank you so much. Well, I love my people. I love my country. I love my state. A nation and a state is nothing but the sum total of its people, and I love my people. I'm not a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I want to be a steward of a seat for a brief moment in time that's owned by the people, and I'm going to do everything in my power as fast and as quickly and as good as possible to make it the absolute best that it can be and hand it off for the next guy to make it better. That's what the people of Arkansas deserve. That's what the citizenry deserves. And we've got to face reality, and we have to come to grips with the challenges that are in front of us, because if we don't admit the reality of the situation, we can't define it, we can't achieve success on it, right?
Yeah.
That's what I want to do, is define success, implement a plan in place, and get to success in some degree, hopefully all of the way through, and further elevate the state up to where it needs to be. You know, I've been working my tail off to get my message out to the people. I've driven over 32,000 miles since June 3rd. I've been, now this is 160 events that I've done since June 3rd. I've been to 57 counties out of 75, and I hope to get to all of them before everything's done. I just want the opportunity to earn your vote. I don't want you to give it to me. I don't want you to give me platitudes. Just give me a fair shot at earning it from you. Discern for yourself who I am and what I represent and what I'm willing to do. I don't want to go to cocktail parties. I don't want to be governor. I don't want to go to D.C. I want to make this state the absolute best that it can be, because I want my children to live here. I want my grandchildren to live here. And I want to get rid of the abject poverty that we see across this state. It's unnecessary. We are a fantastic state with phenomenal resources that we're not capitalizing on to better the citizenry of this state. The lithium down in South Arkansas is valuated to be $1 trillion in assets. And the byproduct of that is going to be fertilizer. We could be the #2 fertilizer supplier in the world next to Canada, just from the byproduct of what it takes from mining that lithium out of the soil. But who is there right now trying to get access to it, trying to control it? Texas is. They're going to rape our soil, they're going to transport it back to Texas, and they're going to make all the money, and their kids and their grandkids and their great-grandkids are going to benefit off of the wealth that came from the state of Arkansas instead of our people. And I don't want to see that happening.
Is that a done deal?
I don't know if it's a done deal or not, but I know that they're there. I know Exxon's there. I know you go down to El Dorado, you go down to these other places, you go down to Magnolia, there's a lot of Texas license plates, and there's a lot of office space being reserved by Texas companies. Mm-hmm. Why else are they there?
Wow. That's really a whole nother show that we could do.
That could change the landscape of this state forever. Because what we need to do is vertically integrate it. We need to make money on mining it. We need to then build the manufacturing process to produce the batteries that come off of it. And then we need to build the battery banks here in Arkansas to store the energy to sell back to the grid at peak times, because we got a serious situation coming when it comes to energy in this country. In 5 years, AI is projected to consume 100% of the energy that the United States produces today. Now, we can produce more, but there's nowhere for that energy to go. Mm-hmm. That's what lithium can do for us. And if we make money on mining it, we manufacture it in the state, and then we build the battery banks for it, we make money the whole way.
Well, I know President Trump talked about the data centers and the power that they're going to have to start footing the bill for their own power, because they're driving up electricity prices. Once a data center goes in, people's electricity prices are going up.
But they say it won't.
Yeah, they say it won't, but I know that's not true. I listen, I know that's not true. I've got family that lives in Georgia, and their energy prices have skyrocketed.
Go ask Blybill.
After the data center went in. So
Blybill experienced it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. It was a good time, man.
Absolutely. We've got to do it again. The election's not till March, and even after the election, it would be great to
Why not?
So, all right. Folks, that's all the time that we have. I want to give a shout-out to our sponsors, Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, T-Guard Bail Bonds, and Sherrod Chiropractic. We really appreciate it. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all the things. God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow.